There we go.
Are you sure?
I mean, sure enough.
Okay.
Sure enough. Hey, guess what, Boet? We should not have any more problems with our internet at all now.
Is that a challenge?
No, it is not a challenge. I'm at least hoping we don't have any more problems with our internet now, because I ran a giant fucking Ethernet cable through our house to my computer.
Yeah.
I did a decent job of covering it.
You did.
Yeah, like it also helps that I was already getting an area rug for the big open area that it was going across.
Yeah.
So I think there's less than 3 linear feet of it that is like exposed, yeah, which is good.
Yeah.
But it also means that my internet speed in the office now and here in the room is the upload speed is usually just short of a full gigabit.
Not good enough.
Yeah, our upload speed is currently sitting at a measly 940 megabits per second.
Measly. You can do better. I expect better from you.
Well, you know what? I'm assuming, there's stuff going on today, so
Not good enough. Just cancel it all.
Yeah, might as well. I'll be interested to see what happens if it actually snows in Seattle and see if our internet goes down, because it did for a hot second last year. But you wouldn't know. You were in New York.
Yep.
It was one of those moments where I was like, this is why I have physical media. We have no internet. I will be using my actual using my actual DVDs and Blu-rays now.
I mean, I've definitely read by like the light reflecting off of the snow outside.
Oh yeah, last year, or just in general.
In general,
yeah. Last year was real bright.
Yeah,
last year was real bright.
I was saying like no power either.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's true. I have too, actually. We could have last year though. It was so bright. Yeah. It was so bright. But again, you were in New York, so it doesn't fucking matter to you. So
I mean, I've definitely got sunbirds in the winter before.
Yes,
like skiing.
Well, everybody who's gone skiing or snowboarding has gotten a sunburn.
Well, the other thing about it is like normal sun, you just kind of get a downward sunscreen.
No, it's the upward burn.
Yeah.
It's the upward burn. It's the reflection burn. It's the same. It's the same as when you go out on an overcast day on a lake.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you have a sunburn. And you're like, what? The sun wasn't out all day. Well, like light still reflects off the water, but
and the snow and the clouds don't really block the UV rays.
No, they don't. So, yeah, but it's. I'm betting you just got the same text message I did.
No.
Is it an Amazon one?
No, I didn't get a text message.
Oh, I did.
What'd you get?
Is it from?
I got my half price books one a little while ago.
I did get a text message. No, it's from Amazon.
Huh.
It's the Amazon truck.
Yeah. What's today's special?
I don't know. I didn't look.
Oh.
I just saw it was Amazon.
I'm not getting it yet. Give me a couple minutes.
Give you a couple minutes. Yeah. It always comes like right now.
10 o'clock.
Like it's always like 10:02 or something like that that it actually hits. Anyway, welcome to Clinically Inane. We are a nerdy podcast out of Seattle. I'm Curtis. That's Boet.
Most of the time.
We are here to talk about, well, whatever is on our minds recently as far as nerdy stuff goes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, well, usually it's nerdy things. We went and saw a movie to review this week that's slightly outside of the realm of our normal
define nerdy. It definitely hits a nerdy track for us.
So here's the thing, is it's a war movie.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't fall under any franchise tag or pre-existing property or like pre-existing IP of any kind.
Yeah.
Its grand overt themes are not in the realm of what we normally hit. Like we touch on horror movies a lot, but that's because I like horror movies.
Yeah.
You are okay with them, but I like horror movies.
So this thing is also horrors have shifted away from the horror I don't like, so that helps too.
Yeah, you don't like the
I don't like gore porn.
Gore porn.
It's just not worth it for me.
Yeah. Unless it's like, see, I would make the argument that like things like Tucker and Dale versus Evil is a solid thing because it's super gory,
but it's also not.
But it's a solid comedy too.
But that's the thing, is the gore is not the center point of it.
That's true.
There are definitely horror movies, like looking back to like Hostel and Saw, where the gore becomes the driving horror point.
Yes,
and that is
you're thinking of torture porn.
Basically, yeah.
And I have chastised you for this before, and I will again.
Yeah.
Do not include Saw. You have to say the later Saw
Right.
movies.
Yeah.
Because Saw is not that.
True. It only has one real.
It has one moment.
Yeah. But
Like,
Hostel is the prime example.
yeah, Hostel is a primary example. Like there's a movie called Feast that is super gory and super, like,
Yeah.
super just over the top. But that's the thing, is it's over the top. It is a ridiculous movie.
I mean, I guess it really does come back to it is the torture porn.
Yeah.
Because going back to like Tromovision,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
where it was ridiculous levels of gore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or
Or
that somehow kind of mitigates it.
or even think about stuff like Cabin in the Woods,
Yeah.
where it's like, it's a comedy, but it's also a horror.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, again, it doesn't come back to the horror non-horror part. It's the I just don't need gratuitous.
Don't need the
violence.
gratuitous violence.
Yeah.
What do you mean you don't need gratuitous violence, Boet? Everyone needs
Realistic.
But well, and so like, but that's the thing, is I see a lot of horror movies still.
Yeah.
Because I like them.
And I'd rather have the suspenseful horror than the gore horror.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally.
The gore. Yeah.
Gore. You just don't like torture porn.
Yeah.
And horror movies now are tending to move away from that a lot. They're tending to get a bit more into the, I guess you could say, thematic horrors.
Yeah.
Like, or like things where it's like, there's ghosts, but they're not gonna be. It's gonna be the ghosts that fuck with you, not the ghosts that are, sadistic and tearing people apart.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
we talk about. So what was it? I was watching the other day. Well, we were watching Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory the other day.
Yeah.
And which, on top of having some things that watching it as an adult that you're like, wow, like Charlie saves a little bit of his work money, his job money, to give to his grandfather for his tobacco.
Yeah.
Like, and when his grandpa buys a Wonka bar with it, how we'll never know because he's never left the bed and it's a secret. But
Amazon order.
Yeah, Grandpa Joe figured that shit out. But he is like, he's like, Grandpa, you were supposed to spend that on tobacco. And it's just like, oh wow, okay, different time. But I was having a discussion. I was talking with a girlfriend about it, and we were talking about how we were watching it, and they were taking their time with scenes.
Yeah.
And really, like the entire thing of getting the golden ticket is the entire first act.
Yeah.
It's the entire first act of the movie. Like the second act of the movie is where you meet Willy Wonka and you go into the, but like, it's interesting because most people think of that as the beginning of the movie of when they go into the factory. They forget that there's a solid 35 minutes before that even happens.
Like when we get to know Charlie and we see his situation.
Get to meet Charlie Bucket, and
you have the Candyman song.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot of songs in there. There's Cheer Up Charlie is in there too. And the other thing is that we meet all the other kids who get the golden ticket. And all of those other kids who get a golden ticket, we spend minimum 2 minutes, upwards to 5 to 6 minute scenes, with those kids to really set in their personalities and who they are, going in, like to actually give them a personality. Whereas we're thinking about the newer one with the Tim Burton one, where that entire section of that movie is like the first 15 minutes. And then
they just kind of rapidly go through these quick little
these little 30 seconds. This is who
they're
kid
basically
is.
like news clips.
Yes, and we were talking about how that as a whole for film and entertainment is kind of a thing. Like back in the day, you didn't have a bunch of flashy special effects, and so you were forced to take time with characters.
Yeah.
And now
A lot of movies don't.
Now a lot of movies don't. Like, get to the action, get to the action, get to the action.
I mean,
God, this is so boring
that
at
was
the
our
beginning.
critique of Last Jedi. Or not Last Jedi.
Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is you have this frantic, like, over-caffeinated opening.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of, and the way that movies are weird.
Mm-hmm.
And watching Willy Wonka, it was much more paced.
Yeah.
Like, the pacing was nice. You got to know the kids. You got to know Charlie. You got to know Charlie's family.
Mm-hmm.
All of that before it even went to the factory.
Yeah.
Which is like, oh wow, okay, cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's like not a thing that movies now do.
A lot of them, yeah.
And so I just thought that was just kind of an interesting thing to observe, that we as a culture, in terms of our entertainment attention span, I won't say attention span in general, because that's not true. There are a lot of people who are still very meticulous about the things that they do and take their time and work on it.
But I mean, it's shown overall as a culture, our attention spans are shorter.
Yeah, entertainment. In
Yeah.
entertainment, our attention span is shorter, especially.
Mm-hmm. Well, no, I mean, like as a cultural average, we are shorter attention spans. It's proven.
Yeah, and that's partially because of things like 24-hour news cycle,
Yeah.
internet giving us things that quickly.
We're getting, and it is
and I don't think it's that we have a shorter attention span so much as it is the amount of information that we are given on a daily basis to process is so much higher than what we used to have to process, what people used to have to process 30 years ago.
Oh no, I'm actually like the studies show that we have shorter attention spans.
Yes. That is because the amount of information that we get is literally infinitesimally higher than what it was before.
We're also, it's also, movies do have, the average scene is significantly shorter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Like I've heard a lot of people grouse and say, like, the perfect movie is 90 minutes long. The fuck it is. The perfect movie is exactly as long as it needs to be.
Yeah. Same with books.
I hate that thing. Like, it's 2 hours long? God, that's so long. No, it's not, bitch. Movies used to have an intermission.
Yeah.
Like, Spartacus is 4.5 hours long. People forget that shit. Titanic
like
is 3. Ben-Hur is 4 hours long.
Yeah.
The Ten Commandments is 4 hours long. You want to talk about, like, fucking classic movies? Once Upon a Time in the West is 2.5 hours long, almost 3.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I hate that shit when people are like, perfect movie is 90 minutes. No. A story takes as long as a story needs to take when it's told correctly.
Yeah.
I hate that shit. Like, and all of this to get to, like, the movie we saw this week.
Robin Hood.
Yes, Robin Hood. No, we can talk about Robin Hood, though. 1917.
Yeah.
Which, at first, when we saw the first trailer for it, I was like, wow, that looks intense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I thought that, and you were kind of like, yeah. Mm-hmm. And then a couple weeks later, I was like, hey, did you know it's directed by Sam Mendes?
That definitely boosts.
And you were like,
interest.
Say what?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. And I heard a rumor, like, saw an article that said it was only had like 8 cuts.
Well, like we were interested for a while just because Sam Mendes.
Yeah.
And then the thing about 8 to 9 cuts has been more recent, like the last few weeks.
Yeah, as people have seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, are you serious? Like, holy shit.
Because Sam Mendes is responsible for one of my probably my favorite James Bond opening.
Which is Skyfall?
Yeah. Which is this...
No, it's not Skyfall. It's Spectre.
Yeah, which is this gorgeous opening.
The one shot through Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great. Spectre has its problems as a movie, but that opening scene is amazing. And Sam Mendes is a very, very talented filmmaker and has been for a long time. Skyfall,
Road to Perdition, American Beauty.
Yeah. God, you know, and a lot of people forget this. Road to Perdition is a comic book movie. Mm-hmm. It is a comic book movie. It was a graphic novel.
Yeah.
A lot of people forget that.
Yeah, no, he's got gorgeous films.
No, Sam Mendes is a fantastic filmmaker.
Yeah.
And so, like, when I told you, hey, that's Sam Mendes, you went, oh, I am more interested now. Then we heard the 8 to 9 shots thing, and we were like, okay, we're gonna go see this.
Yeah.
And we talk a lot about letting scenes breathe.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine doing a scene in a 20-minute long scene in one take.
Yeah.
If not longer.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I mean, a lot of this is that there's an incredible level of filmmaking with that, because you are basically getting...
It's the level of planning, first of all, it's the level of planning from a technical perspective.
Yeah.
It's the level of preparation from an actor's point of view and timing.
Because with this movie, you're basically getting you're getting multiple scenes within one cut.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, shit. The first one, until I got used to the way that it's shot as a one-shot movie.
Yeah,
but I could count at least 4. Like, I noticed 4 cuts.
And some of them are deliberate and intentional.
Yeah.
Like this scene where one character, there's an explosion, and there's a cut there, which makes sense.
Yes. There's an explosion. There's
a scene where a character gets knocked out. And there's a cut there, and it makes sense.
It makes sense. Yeah. There, like I said, there was 4 that I could count.
Mm-hmm.
I think I found 4 or 5 more.
Yeah.
Just watching.
Yeah.
But the way that the film is made, who's to say? Mm-hmm. It's hard to tell.
It's beautiful though.
But that's the thing is it's really the way it's thought about, and that he does those cuts. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, and I mean the opening cut.
But the opening shot, I'd say shot.
Yeah, shot is 3 scenes.
Is 3 scenes, and it takes place over 20 minutes.
Yeah,
and
you're with it for about 20 minutes.
Actually, no, that shot is longer than 20 minutes.
Oh yeah, we have a long that
opening one is probably 35 minutes long.
Yeah,
because that's all one shot until the explosion.
Yeah, no, from there's 1, 2, 3.
There's 5 scenes in that.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah. And here's the thing is I'm so used to our style of filmmaking that they'd be talking to each other, and I'd be like, a normal editor or normal filmmaker would be like, okay, we're going to go to switch to the over the shoulder,
yeah,
go back and forth. We're going to do it doesn't have to be a bunch of cuts, but it's 3 or 4. And for the first 10 minutes of the movie, it was giving me anxiety.
Oh, I was loving it.
Oh, it was great.
Yeah.
It was great, but it was giving me anxiety because I was my brain is so trained by modern filmmaking that I expected the cuts and they weren't happening, and it was fucking with me.
Because there's a scene with a map, and what I love about the scene with the map is they're talking about the map.
You don't get to look at it.
The camera's on the map. But they're not the people are talking.
Yeah,
you're not going through the people who are talking.
Yeah, well, no, it gives you an overview of one map, and normally it's it would zoom in on this part on the map.
Yeah. You can't see where they're gesturing on the map, but
yeah, he's like, "Do you know where this is?" Okay, and then they go, "Okay, now let's look at these things," and they go over there. We don't get to look at them.
Yeah,
that's when it kind of zooms over, and then it goes up to the characters' faces again, and you're like, "Okay, here we go."
And I think it's because also they need characters who they're not talking to the camera.
Yeah.
And it's something, I like it.
Yeah.
Because it is a lot of your standard rules of filmmaking gets slightly tweaked by that. And broken. And
yeah. And so that again, you can see why it caused me anxiety.
Yeah.
Because as much as I love the West Wing style walk and talk, and I mean, and it's made to cause you anxiety too, because it's World War I, it's trench warfare, so it's also a bit claustrophobic at points. And you're just like, holy shit, okay.
But also, so a character may have a monologue, and they're going through this, but you're able to watch the other characters in the scene the entire time, and your focus is less controlled. And
yes,
yeah,
it's I did see something that made me laugh though on Rotten Tomatoes. So when I went to go get the tickets for the showing, Fandango was fucking up.
Yeah,
and it was it was changing because they poured over the Rotten Tomatoes scores to the Fandango page, and it was changing the score every time I clicked to a different page.
Yeah.
And I started clicking it to see if it kept fucking up the score. And at one point, it's like I think it's like an 89% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that. And so at one point, it was like at 30%, and then 40, and then 85, and then 70, and then 28, and then 89. And I was like, what the fuck is going on?
Was like only importing the latest vote, or
No. It was just like the API was fucked up, and
Okay.
it was just pulling the wrong information.
Yeah.
Like it was pulling random information as opposed to targeted.
Yeah.
Something like that. Which may honestly, if you think about it, might be caused by the title of the movie. It's numbers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like you know how code works. That might screw it up.
Well, I've had a conversation with a coworker now a couple times about there's a podcast called 99%.
Yeah.
And their thing with Audis. I think it was Audi, but there was a car manufacturer.
Audi.
I think it was Audi. Might have been Mitsubishi, but every time anyone tried to play their podcast, the entire audio system would just shut down in the cars. And so they end up to another podcast who specializes in finding bugs and testing all these theories, ideas. And it basically part of it came down to the fact their name was 99%. And something in that
Fucked up the internal computer on the car.
is the same as the restart command for the stereo.
See, yeah, and so that's like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, if you think about the way code works, that might have been the thing that caused it. But
Yep.
anyway, so I ended up on the actual Rotten Tomatoes page just to be like to look at it, and I kind of peeked at the community scores because it's always just an interesting thing. And one of the scores I saw, it was like 1 star. It was like, we've already seen this war movie. It was called Saving Private Ryan.
No, it wasn't. It was called Black Hawk Down.
Yeah. Like, different conflict altogether, first of all.
It's called Rambo 2.
Yeah.
No, wait, no, it's
Rainbow 2 is technically First Blood Part 2.
yeah, well,
But anyway,
no, we haven't.
no, we haven't. Like, it's first of all, it's a different conflict altogether. It's World War One. It's
Different war. It's a different purpose.
They're not like, I get the feeling they saw the trailer and they're like, oh, they're going to find his brother.
Yeah.
It's like Saving Private Ryan.
No.
It's not.
And World War One is such an interesting war to tell stories in.
It is, because World War One was, is it still the deadliest war on the planet? Yeah, it beats out World War II.
Because it was so visceral and close together. And
Yeah, the trench warfare was an intense thing.
But you have concepts like we're starting to first get our initial armored vehicles.
Yeah.
But at the same time, horses and sabers are a valid option.
Yeah, and it's the first time planes are introduced as a form of warfare.
The last major war with the confirmed kill by bow and arrow.
Yeah.
There was a pretty much insane Scotsman who was out there with bagpipes and a bow and arrow.
Yeah,
he could.
Yeah, sure. Because he's Scottish. That's what they do.
Yeah,
it's World War. I mean, the World War One. Let's put it in this way: the Ottoman Empire was involved in World War One.
Yeah, but like World War One it's a weird point in history for warfare because by World War Two, a lot of things have changed,
and it's not even that. It's 20 years later.
Yeah,
it's not even that big of a difference.
No,
but like we've got, in terms of time, it's not that huge of a difference. But in terms of technology, like you still had bayonets and daggers and stuff
as
like that.
Your backups, though.
Yeah. But everyone carried a pistol, and
we've switched over from horses to 100% vehicles.
Yeah, and planes are an entirely different thing.
Yeah,
we go from biplanes to fighter pilots. And
we're seeing our first start of jet engines and long distance bombings and everything like that becomes fundamentally different.
Yeah, the other big thing different too was another big different thing was they got out of the trenches in World War II, and I think that is a thing that is so very
well. Part of what change there is we introduced chemical warfare into trench warfare.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, these chemicals that can flood a trench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It made the trenches
hazardous.
Yeah. And fucking phosphorus gas, man. Oof.
Chlorine.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, the chlorine gas, mustard gas.
Yeah.
All that shit. Yeah, it was bad. Phosphorus burned people. Chlorine gas melted people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking rough shit, man. And there's a reason all of that stuff is illegal now.
Yeah.
Like illegal worldwide.
Yeah.
Like using it is a war crime. So,
but I mean, probably like one of the things in this movie is within 50 feet of these characters traveling, there is a dead horse in a crash tank.
Yeah.
That doesn't exist anywhere else.
Well, and that's the other fascinating thing about World War One is they go to no man's land and they travel from line to line. It's 300 yards.
Yeah. Because that was about the range of your rifles.
Yeah. Was not that far away from each other. And like in between was just
no man's land.
And in no man's land is just bombed to hell. Like there's craters. There's no green anywhere.
Bodies are from both sides.
Yeah, there's just bodies littered everywhere. Like when they walk by the dead horses, like one is just getting to the point of bloat. The other one is like partially a skeleton. Like,
yeah,
it's that's the other thing that was really fascinating about it was them moving through the areas. And that's the other weird thing about World War One is you could go from one area to the next, and you could go from no man's land to half a mile down the road, and you're in green, sunny valleys.
A
farmland, and it's beautiful.
Yeah. And
then you go a little bit further, and you're back into war area.
And I mean, there are gorgeous shots in this in the war country. Like, there's a scene where they come across it's a bombing range, but like all the artillery weapons.
It's the back side of the German trench.
Yeah, and they get to these, and it's a gorgeous shot.
Yeah, and it looks like it's an old mine. It looks like that they set up.
Yeah, but
And so it's like this big open area, and you see all of these spent artillery shells on the ground. It's beautiful.
It is.
It's stark as fuck.
That's part of the beauty of it, though, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of things in it were really, and it wasn't one of those ones where it was like we're gonna show you the the horrors of war, and like it was out of hand when they got into it. No, it wasn't. These are the horrors of war, but
it wasn't necessarily that we're making a movie about the horrors of war. We are making a movie set within the horrors of war.
Yeah, I guess that's a good way of putting it.
They just simply exist around them, and
this is a thing that this is just the way things were.
Yeah,
yeah, and it's beautiful. It's heartbreaking. It's stark. It's the cinematography is gorgeous.
It is.
The sets and the locations are beautiful.
And that's part of Sam Mendes' style, though.
Yeah, there's a part when he gets into a town and there's a church on fire, and it's just like holy. I think you might have heard me. I went holy shit.
So like the scene where he. For lack of a thing, he comes up the top of the stairs and goes out, and like it zooms out this window.
Yeah,
it's a stunning shot of that flaming church.
Yeah, well, you can't even see the church yet. It's just you're just seeing the phosphorus flares.
Yeah, but then I guess the first shot where you get the church is just engulfed, and the structure's still there. And
and you probably heard me go, holy shit.
No, it's
gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous. And I've talked about this multiple times before, and I harp on it. It is a simple story told well.
Yeah, in its appropriate time.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like I've talked about it before. It doesn't have to be. I do enjoy, your twists and turn movies are fun.
Yeah,
yeah, like Knives Out. is
But
great.
It's a very different movie.
It's a very different type of movie. I do enjoy, your usual suspects and it's Ryan Johnson again, Brick.
Yeah.
Where there's twists, turns. It's a whodunit. Or even things like Avengers, where you're stacking all of these different characters together, and there's like, oh my god, did you see the cool thing that they did? And you get these little moments of like, sure, we'll intertwine these things,
Yeah.
and like all of that's really fun. I also really like just a simple story told well, and that's what this is. It is two guys who are trying to deliver a message from point A to point B. And it's about all of the shit in the middle.
Yep.
And that's a simple story told well.
Maybe they'll get you on the movie. We only have 2 actors.
Yeah. And the other part of it too is that there are some big name actors in that movie.
There are.
Like you get Colin Firth, Benedict Cumberbatch, Mark Strong, Richard Madden. Why am I spacing on his name? The guy who he played Moriarty, and he was the hot priest in Fleabag.
Yeah.
What was his name? And I'm spacing. He literally just had an award nomination for that. Hot priest. That's literally all I'm searching. That is Andrew Scott.
Yeah.
That's all I had to search was hot priest, because that's how he's referred to in Fleabag. Which, if you haven't watched Fleabag, you fucking should. It's amazing. But yeah, and Andrew Scott's in it for a scene.
Yeah.
And he and Colin Firth are technically in the same scene together, but they're not.
Yeah. Well, they're in the same shot.
Yeah. And it's absolutely, I thought it was fascinating that you got these two guys they've been around they've been the actors who are the 2 main guys.
Yeah.
Have been around for a little while,
like
but they've not done a whole lot though. They're not big names like the other ones.
We actually have a couple connections to one of them.
Oh yeah?
He was Boet in George McKay was Boet in Captain Fantastic.
Oh, that's right. He was in Captain Fantastic. Yeah. He was with Trin.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then Lance Corporal is Tommen from Game of Thrones.
Tommen?
Tommen.
Really?
Yeah. Dean Charles Chapman.
He must have grown up.
Lance Corporal Blake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How old is he?
Let's not give me an age. I mean, he started Game of Thrones 6 years ago.
Yeah, but Tommen was a kid, man.
Yeah.
God, aging,
Yep.
But
well, I mean, if you figure if he started that at like 14, that'd make him like 19 in this. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Which World War One.
That's the other thing too. Is there's some shots of groups of soldiers. It's like, fuck, man, they are kids. They're like
not a
18.
single beard whisker between them.
Like there's like a couple guys with mustaches.
Yeah.
And they're like weak mustaches, but unless they're like an upper officer, they're all like they're kids.
Yeah.
Like the one person who has a full beard is the guy from India.
Yeah.
Is the Sikh soldier. Like it's nuts.
It is, and it's but the truth of it though.
Yeah, it's wild to think about though.
Yeah.
They were all kids, but yeah, the rest of it, if they're like you get these big name actors or these really recognizable actors to come in and they play one role
in a little scene.
That's it. Like Richard Madden, you know who Richard Madden is. He
made the football game.
Yeah. He was also in Game of Thrones. He was Robb Stark.
Yeah.
He was the one at the end.
Yeah.
He's in a super short scene.
Yeah.
Benedict Cumberbatch's scene is 4 minutes long.
What, maybe 10 lines?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Colin Firth, I think Andrew Scott has the longest out of all of them on screen.
Quite possibly, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's the longest on screen. He's also the funniest of all of them.
Yeah.
It was great character. But that's the thing about it too, is that it was almost like wherever you were in the trench was like a different neighborhood.
A lot of ways, yeah.
Because that's where you hunkered down at. That's where you lived your life, was in that area. And it was just fascinating to watch. There's a moment where he's trying to get a guy to give him an answer, and during the big start of a big battle, and the guy's just crying. Yeah. He just breaks and he's crying.
It's the officer too.
Yeah, it's the officer. Like the soldier, like all the privates and everyone is getting ready to run in, and he's just standing there weeping because he just panics. Yeah. It's a panic response.
Yep. And it's part of it.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they did such a good job with Schofield. That's his name, Lance Corporal Schofield.
Yeah.
They did such a good job. He did such a good job of showing his exhaustion too.
Oh God, there's a scene right after the river.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, it just. Yeah, no. This is a movie that really is like, hey, you want to feel like emotionally wrought by the end of it. Like, this is like I didn't cry, but like I heard.
Yeah, no, it's
weeping in the theater.
I mean,
I was more entranced.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess is a good way of putting it. Yeah,
because like we've had other movies where they've had this emotional depth, this level.
Yeah,
and honestly, there are a lot like first one I think of for ones that are stunning movies, amazing movies that we'll probably watch again is Straight Outta Compton. Yeah. This I might actually sit down and watch again, though.
Oh, I'm absolutely gonna watch this again. It is a movie nerd like dream. It is a movie for movie nerds. Yeah. It is also just a good story.
Even as I'm more of a photography nerd than a movie nerd.
Cinematography, yeah.
That comes into play here though, is
absolutely, absolutely. But like, it's well made. It's nice to look at, actually. Yeah. It's hard to really, like, there are a couple minor story elements that I'm like, that if I really wanted to get nitpicky, I could, but I'm not going to.
I definitely remember there was one scene where the Howard just goes, it's the...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I heard the entire crowd go, ugh. I think you and I made the same noise.
Because it's also what happened like right before that. And
yeah. I think you and I made the same. You and I both went, ooh. Yeah.
The squishy scene.
Squishies. But it's really fucking good.
It is.
It's really fucking good. Like 1970. It's really good. And Sam Mendes continues to be a phenomenal filmmaker. Yeah. Like,
I'm thinking the last one we saw set in World War I was an absolute energy change from this.
What was the last one we saw?
Wonder Woman.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I just thought because of the No Man's Land scene.
No Man's Land was a very different spot for her. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a slightly different character, though, too.
Yeah, a little bit. You finally, however, we'll move away from 1917. We've been talking about it for a while now.
I finally watched...
You finally watched the Taron Egerton and
Robin Hood.
Jamie Foxx Robin Hood, which I watched this last summer when it hit HBO.
It's
real fucking bad.
Looking back to my 2018, would still have not made my worst movie of the year.
2018, no. When it came out,
no. I still think this is better than Skyscraper.
That wasn't even your worst movie of 2018. I know. Yeah.
This is.
Here's the thing.
A mediocre action film.
Here's the thing. It's not even fun.
Yeah.
Like, if you're going to be a mediocre action movie, be fun.
Do you realize what the entire movie is? They replaced the Sheriff of Nottingham with a slightly more villainous Sheriff of Nottingham. Yeah. That's all that happens in the entire movie.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that's exactly what happens.
like it's almost if they'd gone more over the top, it could have been better.
Yeah. And I disliked the way that they did Little John.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was dumb.
I mean, it's not the first time that it has been played with, but it's been done better elsewhere.
Yeah. Like, I saw what they were going for, and it just went...
Arguably, the two biggest Robin Hood movies do the same idea with Little John.
Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves with...
I guess Men in Tights actually did have a
Kevin... you were thinking the one with Kevin Costner?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's Prince of Thieves.
Yeah, where he's also Middle Eastern. And
well,
I guess...
like, that's not the problem that I have with it.
Yeah.
The problem that I have with it is they made him a boring character.
Yeah.
And Jamie Foxx...
Especially someone like Jamie Foxx in the role.
And then Jamie Foxx really... He phoned it in pretty hard, I feel like.
Yeah.
But like the way, I don't know. The you know who the best character in the entire movie is?
Maid Marian?
No. Tuck.
Oh yeah. Tim Minchin's Tuck.
Tim Minchin.
Like that's the thing about this movie is there's potential
like that had a potential for being a really fun subplot.
Yeah.
And it was just
like this I think they could have done again if they'd heightened it more. Like there's an opening scene where we first see the sheriff of Nottingham.
Yeah.
Where he gives his speech.
Yeah.
And like the energy in that is great for the character. And if they'd kept like this grandiose level with it.
Yeah.
If they'd gone basically more over the top of this film, I think it could have been better.
Yeah, that's the thing. You know, things that like I will say, like if you compare to I had a very similar feel to Guy Ritchie's King Arthur.
Yeah,
which was also bad, but at least that one embraced being stupid.
Yeah,
it just had a problem of pacing. Really, that was the biggest problem with that movie. Was pacing was weird. The plot kind of like went around for a bit. They're trying to go for twists and turns, and it ended up just being like that road that kind of makes you car sick.
Yeah,
that was the biggest problem with King Arthur.
Yeah,
but at least it's fun.
I mean, this movie, one of the most exciting scenes is a training montage.
Yeah, and but this is that's the thing is it's not fun.
And like this training montage has good energy, and they're going over the top a little bit with it. And if they'd kept it on the battles, I think it could have been better.
Yeah.
Like, give me this insane Robin Hood who does weird gymnastic stunts while firing arrows. Cool. Yeah. I can live with that.
Yes. Like, give us something stupid.
Yeah.
Like, that's we've talked. So, for example, Pacific Rim is a completely mediocre action movie.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know why it's an amazing movie?
Because it knows it is?
Because it knows what it is. It knew that it was giant robots punching giant monsters. Mm-hmm. And it embraced that.
I've got another 2018 movie that goes, it was my contrast to Skyscraper that year. The Meg.
Yes.
It knew it's stupid.
It knew it was stupid.
It leaned into that.
Yes. The Robin Hood one was like trying to create its own new franchise. And
how do you franchise Robin Hood?
Well, I mean, like you said, they replaced a sheriff of Nottingham with another sheriff of Nottingham.
Yeah.
And like obviously that plays for sequels.
Not this one.
Not if the movie sucks, it doesn't. And but you could tell that they were going for that. They wanted the sequel.
Yeah. Which would have been this, but that's the thing is nothing changed. Nothing really progressed in this movie, so the sequel would have been the same story.
Yeah,
like
minus a training montage.
Yeah, it might have had him training a little group. It would have had him training the merry men instead of him being trained.
Yes, exactly. And
because the sheriff got replaced with a different sheriff who knows who Robin Hood is.
Yes. So he immediately becomes wanted.
There's no Prince John. There was a cardinal instead who doesn't change.
Yeah.
The sheriff and the cardinal are still in charge. Like, people have moved from a mine to the woods. Like, not a whole lot changed.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Not a whole lot actually happens in that movie. I mean, and I know we're late talking about it, but it's because you finally saw it. We didn't see it in theaters because I refused because I thought it looked stupid.
Yeah.
And then it turns out we saw it. And it was stupid.
I mean, when I first saw the trailers, I thought it had potential. Like
the first trailer, you looked at it and you're like, that could have potential. I looked at you and said, that movie's going to be awful.
Yeah.
I believe that was the exact
Probably.
first. Like, I remember seeing it and looking at you and you being like, I like Robin Hood, though. And I'm like, yeah, that movie's going to be terrible.
Yeah, I did actually watch a trilogy this week of bad movies that's really good, though.
Yeah, we've talked about them before.
The Tremor trilogy.
Tremor trilogy.
Yeah.
Well, the original trilogy. Like,
I haven't bothered watching the fourth and fifth one yet.
Yeah.
They're all on one of the streaming services currently.
I think they're all on Amazon.
It's not Amazon. I know it's not Amazon. I'm watching.
No, it's Hulu.
It's either Netflix or Hulu.
They're all on Hulu.
Actually, no. You
No,
know what? No. 1, 2, 4, and 5 are on Hulu.
3
is on Netflix.
Yeah. Because sure, why not?
Yeah.
But no, it's again, stupid movies that know what they're about.
Yeah.
Like I gotta appreciate something that knows what it is.
Whether it's Tremors or 1917.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, if they know what they are,
Yeah.
then who the fuck cares? Have fun, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why I try not to. I try not to be like, man, your taste in movies is terrible, because I love terrible movies.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: is I hate terrible movies that are just bad. If there's no redeeming quality to it, like if it's a terrible movie and I can get drunk with my friends and we can make fun of it,
it's got redeeming quality.
It's got a redeeming quality.
Yeah.
If it is a terrible movie, but it knows what it's about and embraces it, like then I will watch it.
I think part of me is
if it is a movie that takes itself way too seriously,
doesn't deserve to,
and they just kind of bleh,
yeah,
fuck it, get it out. I like that. That's a bad movie.
Yeah,
that in my mind is a bad movie. Like, if it knows, like I'm trying to think of a good example. A good, like, Pacific Rim is a good example of a bad movie that knows what it is, so it embraces it.
The Meg.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot of, but then
there's like Skyscraper, which
took itself way too seriously.
But at the same time, it was a weird one because it wasn't 100% willing to commit to that.
The same year, though, something that knew it was dumb and embraced how dumb it was, again from The Rock, was Rampage.
Yeah.
It knew it was dumb.
Yep.
And it embraced being dumb, and it ended up being really fun.
But then at the same time, you get movies from that year also that they're just not well made. And we go back to,
excuse me,
what's his face in 10,000 City, or
Valerian and the Planet of 1,000 Cities, or whatever it is, or City of 1,000 Planets.
That's it.
Yeah. Doesn't embrace the fun.
No,
it's just dumb.
Yep.
And it's not even like dumb, and I can sit here and make fun of it dumb. It's just dumb.
Just poorly made.
Yeah, it's just bad.
Yeah.
And that's the bummer about it, is because it took itself too seriously.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen a lot of like sci-fi movies that are like serious sci-fi movies, but because they don't take themselves too seriously, becomes a more successful drama. Yeah. I guess is the best way of putting it.
Yep.
Like, if you look at sci-fi television, things like Battlestar Galactica,
Stargate,
The Expanse.
Yeah.
It's a serious political dramatic thing. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
No.
Because it knows it's a fucking sci-fi thing. Like, I guess a good way of putting it is when something is feels like it's embarrassed to be the genre that it is.
Yeah. Like Stargate, it knew it was a ridiculous premise. It leaned into that ridiculous premise, and it gets into some pretty deep topics because of it.
Yeah. I mean, the reason I point at Battlestar is because it's hyper sci-fi, man. Mm-hmm. It is. But it doesn't ever apologize for being that.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about this before, where you see a franchise or something where it came from like a pre-existing property, and it's clear that the people who are making it hate that property
or just don't care about
or
it.
don't care about it.
Yeah.
Transformers was the big, like the Michael Bay Transformers movies.
Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, and I was going there next.
Well, I mean, part of the beauty of the original is it didn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah, it knew what it was.
Yeah,
and it doesn't apologize for it. And we've talked about that with comic book movies too. When they feel like they're apologizing for being a comic book movie,
yeah,
that's why the Zack Snyder movies don't work, because they're apologizing for being comic book movies.
Yep.
Whereas Marvel
fucking leans into it.
Yeah, that's why the DC movies have, and like, but that's also why the DC movies have been more successful as of late. Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Shazam, all of those knew what they leaned into it.
Yeah,
like they're just like, fuck it, yeah, let's just go for it. Whereas, Man of Steel and BVS were both like, we're sorry, we're making superhero movies.
Yeah.
I mean, when something apologizes for being what it is.
Well, I think probably like Man of Steel more than anything, it doesn't only apologize for making a comic movie, but it is almost apologizing for what character it's choosing to make.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it's not one leaning in that Superman is Superman. It's trying to deny that Superman is Superman to make a Superman movie.
Yeah. Yeah. You're not going to do that. That's why the Marvel equivalent is Captain America. Never once does it apologize for him being a goody-goody.
No.
They fucking flip him shit for it.
Or Captain America.
Yeah.
You said Oh.
I said Marvel.
I thought you said the Marvel equivalent is Captain Marvel. Never mind. Okay.
Yeah, Marvel equivalent Captain America.
Yes.
They never once flip him. They never once apologize. Steve never apologizes for being who he is.
No.
They flip him shit for it constantly.
Yeah, but that's also in the character of the characters.
Yeah, that's the thing, is they flip him shit for it, but they never apologize for it.
Yeah.
And they always accept that's who he is. They never tell him he has to be somebody different.
No.
They accept that's who he is. Whereas the other ones are the Superman movies, especially, like,
I mean, the death of Pa Kent is the big example from that one.
That makes me so angry. Or, in BVS, fucking Ma Kent being like, you don't owe them anything. Let them all die.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus Christ, woman.
That's not Ma Kent.
No. Like, she would have...
She does not live up to the name of Martha in that action.
No. She would have... She would have told... She would have told Clark to go do the right thing.
Be the man you were born to be.
Be who you were born to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be the hero you're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not fuck them.
Yeah.
Which is the story. Again, I go back to it. It makes me angry every time.
I know.
It's so dumb. But
1917 is a gorgeous, well-made movie.
it is.
That does not apologize for what it is.
No, it is not. It is amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah,
If
we're
you're screaming shit all, it may not fully be your movie.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you have trouble, it's not body horror. If you just have trouble with dead things.
Yeah. Because
I mean, that's the way World War I was.
But, yeah.
They had bodies just fucking littered the battlefield.
Yeah. I mean, there's a scene where he's crawling across bodies.
Mm-hmm. There's a couple scenes.
Yeah, there's one I remember towards the end where he's just like, I
heard the audience being like,
because you even get like they get down to like bodies decaying and bloated tongue like hanging out of a mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. It's rough, man.
Yeah.
It's rough shit. But World War I was no bullshit.
No.
There's a lot going on with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was an intense movie.
Wonderfully.
But wonderfully so.
Yeah.
Like, simple things like, I am crossing a bridge is like fucking gripping the edge of your seats. Like, or like in my case, I tend to curl in on myself.
Yeah.
Like I tend to like try and pull myself in, and it's like, because what I'm trying to get out of their way, like subconsciously.
That makes sense.
Because I'm used to being a big dude who's in the way. So I see somebody struggling with something on screen. I find myself attempting to move out of their way.
That makes sense. I mean, I'm still coming back to the shots in this are stunning.
Both cinematography is beautiful. It's everything. It's well planned, well shot.
Yeah.
Like if you are a film geek, get in on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really, really quite good. As we get here towards the end, I will shout out. It's coming out to limited release in the next couple weeks. Brett's new movie,
which has slightly more cuts in it.
Slightly more. It's The Color Out of Space.
Interesting.
The H.P. Lovecraft one.
Yeah.
Directed by Richard Stanley, starring Nick Cage and Jolie Richardson.
It'll come to Seattle.
I'll have to watch for it.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping so. But yeah, Brett's new movie with Spectre Vision is coming out soon.
I almost kind of want to hear Brett's thoughts on 1917.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to talk to him about. Which I'll probably get a chance to. But I did talk to him about Color Out of Space coming when he came to town over a Christmas break.
Color Out of Space.
That's his new movie.
Oh wait, I thought you said it.
Is that what it is?
You said something.
I think that's what it's called.
You've said two different names, I swear.
I keep on getting it wrong too.
You said Colorado Space and you said Color of Space.
Color Out of Space.
Okay.
You're just mishearing me. Or I'm not enunciating enough. The Color Out of Space.
Okay.
Yes, Color Out of Space.
Out of a meteorite lands in the front yard of their farm. Nathan Gardner's family find themselves battling a mutant extraterrestrial organism that infects the minds and bodies, transforming their quiet rural life into a Technicolor nightmare.
Yep.
Technicolor Nightmares. Be a great band name.
Yeah, it would be. But yeah, no, it's coming. I believe it goes into wider release on the 24th.
Okay.
I saw that.
86 on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
Official, like I said, release date listed here is 24th.
Okay, yeah. So January 24th.
Yeah.
It's gone to a few festivals. Went to Toronto Film Festival and stuff like that. But
yeah, I thought you said Colorado Space.
So it's directed by Richard Stanley.
Yeah.
You might know Richard Stanley as the director of. Don't bother looking him up. You will know him as he hasn't directed anything in a couple decades because he's the director that got fired from The Island of Dr. Moreau.
Interesting.
For fighting with Marlon Brando.
Yeah.
3 days into production. And then they brought in somebody else. And for anybody who doesn't know, that movie is there's a documentary about it, about how wildly out of control it got and how just absolutely unhandleable Marlon Brando and Val Kilmer were.
Yeah.
And how it like broke Fairuza Balk's mind a little bit to make it. And at one point, Richard Stanley snuck back on set 6 months later. It's supposed to be a 4-month shoot, by the way.
Yeah.
Snuck back on set 6 months later as an extra. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
And yeah, apparently he never. So apparently he has such strong PTSD and trauma from Color Out of Space, from Island of Dr. Moreau, that he did not believe that they were actually making the movie until the producer literally picked him up, drove up to his house in middle of nowhere Europe, and picked him up from his house, drove him to set where they were.
So he has such strong PTSD from Island of Moreau that he didn't actually believe they were making Color of Space.
Yeah. Yeah. He didn't believe, it got funded. They got actors. They got locations. The entire crew was there. He did not believe that he wasn't going to drive himself. He didn't think it was actually going to happen.
That's somehow very
appropriate.
Yeah. For a Lovecraft movie.
Yeah, he didn't think it was actually going to happen.
I'm intrigued.
And then they're literally their executive producer picked him up drove 5 hours, picked him up from his house and drove him to set to start making the movie. like the day before they went to started.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm even more intrigued now just for that.
Oh, Brett has so many more stories. It's too bad like it just timing wasn't that we could get him to come sit down. But yeah,
interesting.
Yeah, it was fascinating, and I'd like to hear more of them.
Yeah.
That being said, we're at our time, Boet.
Are we?
Yes, we are. Well, we're at 10:59, but yeah.
Is it worth tossing in the 1970s based off Sam Mendes' grandfather's like written short stories and such of World War One?
That is a good thing to mention.
Yeah.
Thank you for mentioning that. So now you know. But yeah, go see 1917. It's great. We should be back next week. It's planning to snow in Seattle.
I mean,
hopefully it shouldn't affect us too much.
Probably won't affect us.
If anything, it'll be like, we've been in the house for 3 days.
Actually, I've realized our house is big enough that we could go through days without probably seeing each other.
We have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that being said, that's it.
Is it?
Yep.
All right.
All right.
Bye, kids.
Bye, kids.